Dukkha. Dukkha means suffering. Who in this room has never had suffering before? Anyone in this room never had suffering? It is so easy to find misery in this world. Misery is for the body, misery is for the mind. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. So Krishna used two adjectives to describe this material world. And as he describes this material world, the two adjectives, dukkhalayam. Dukkhalayam means it is a place that is filled with miseries. And ashashvatam, it is temporary. So if we are truth, when I read that the first time, and I looked around and I started questioning my mind, right? I recognized, wait, wow, this statement is so true. And as I looked around, I said, wait, everything is also really temporary. So this is a beautiful mantra to remember. Whenever I teach philosophy, I will still explain that this dimension, everything that material that we see has a beginning and it will surely have an end. And then when you contemplate, you're like, wait, the suffering I'm going to go through is temporary. As soon as one suffering finishes, what happens in this material dimension? Another suffering. It's so spot on, right? You know, okay, I got healthy from COVID, right? Then as soon as you're feeling a little happy, boom, the tax man comes at you. Then you finally pay the tax, now you're happy. Another, and something else comes, right? It's life. So the yogis, Krishna wants us to get this realization. There is another place that is full of pleasure, and we are Ananda, we are pleasure seekers. The soul, the spiritual being whom we are pleasure seekers. But we're looking for the pleasure in the wrong dimension. Krishna is warning us, telling us, even if you get pleasure here or June, it will only be ashashvatam, temporary. If you get suffering in this material world, Arjun, it will be temporary. So these two powerful adjectives he used. And when we hear it, we just have to then put it into our lifestyle and look around. Yes, everything that I see in this material dimension only lasts for a while. New York, right? We have so many friends. Broadway, right? In Hollywood, I have so many Hollywood friends, right? Movie stars. But that window is very short. It's a window, right? Athletes, it's a window, right? Gymnasts, it's a small window they have. It only lasts for a while. So let me introspect my mind and body and recognize the temporariness that I have experienced. Let me experience it and the suffering that I have experienced. Yes. And the pleasures that I have, but I knew it only lasts for a while. Then bring the spine tall, close the eyes softly. Bring the whole body into stillness. Bring the mind into the present moment, to the breath at the entrance of the nostrils. Identify the slight temperature change. Incoming breath is slightly cooler. Outgoing breath with the body's heat is slightly warmer. Bring the gaze in the center of the eyebrows. And as you gaze there, I want you to remember an experience you've had that was very distressful, very caused misery. And as you remember that miserable time, that distressful time, remember that it only lasted for a while. And when the distressful time ended, you had a pleasurable time, but that pleasurable time only lasted for a while as well. And then another form of distress came. That ended, and another form of pleasure came. That ended. And you get the realization as we evolve as a human conscious being, oh wow, this world is a place where there's repeatedly misery, pleasure, and temporariness. We cannot change the universe. It is engineered that way. And on our Earth planet, we can see everything takes birth, grows, stays for a while, dwindles, and then dies. The cycle of repeated birth. I want you to contemplate a life form which you have experienced in this life. Maybe you saw a baby puppy, baby cat, a caterpillar to a butterfly. You see the whole life, and then the cycle. You see the cycle. You see a tree, a plant, goes through the cycle of repeated birth and punarjanma. And then you recognize that your physical body that you have at this moment, it took birth, janma, it grew, and it's only going to be for a while because it's shashvatam, it is temporary. It will come to an end. And we can stop this cycle of repeated birth and death by smaranam, remembering our divinity, remembering our spiritual being whom we are, remembering our spiritual deity. And once we can do that, then we can leave this material dimension behind and go back to the spiritual dimension where there's no suffering, no temporariness, eternal pleasure. The spiritual dimension is the opposite of the material dimension, and that's where we came from, which is where we're trying to head back. And it might take 1 life, 100 lifetimes, 1,000 lifetimes, but that is nothing compared to eternality. And contemplate one of those dreams, inner experiences you had, which transcended the time on the earth time frame. You spent a time in that different dimension. It was a different time frame than this. Contemplate one of those experiences now. And just have you experienced time in the 3-dimensional realm and time in the astral realm, know that the spiritual being can experience and go back to the spiritual dimension. Sometimes you might have a spiritual experience while living within this material body, and it transcends the time frame on this dimension. Remind us who we are, going back to that eternal place. The yogis are grateful for this material dimension because the material dimension gives us wisdom, gives us knowledge of where we are, where we can go, what we are not, what we really are. We can aspire to go back to that spiritual dimension. So we're grateful for the teachings of seeing a tree take birth, grow old, dwindle, die. We're grateful to see the distress and pleasure and the temporary nature of this dimension. That helps us to trigger, hanker for us to want that eternal pleasurable dimension. You are an eternal being. However old this universe is, know that you've been existing as long as old as this universe and before it. When we tap into these frequencies, we can then tap into becoming a Mahatma, great soul, who does his service here only for a while, do what you got to do, and then leave gracefully. Bring your awareness back to the breath. Grateful for the breath. Helps us to move through space, move through time in this three-dimensional room. Take a deep inhalation. Exhale. Palms to the heart. Lower the head towards your eternal self. Namaste. Lift the head and the eyes.